Studios only see the success of your films. They don't really care about your story, honestly.
Society is getting sicker, and I'm interested in finding out why.
Literally, Bollywood saved my life. I was going to be shot by a mujahideen.
Bombay has incredible safety for women. I don't think I've seen that in any other city in this country at least.
It's a delight to be here sharing the stage with both of you, Richa and Kabir, if I may call you that.
Yes.
So, if we can begin with the fact that in 2025, both of you have actually marked a milestone of your career. 10 years ago, you did Bajrangi Bhaijaan, and 10 years ago, you did Masan. And Masan was that film which brought out, the small town, the strong-headed woman caught in that choti jagah, choti soch. I think Pankaj Tripathi character tells your character Devi कि ये वो जगह है जहाँ पे 64 नहीं 28 ट्रेन रुकती नहीं 28 ट्रेन रुकती हैं 64 यहाँ रुकती नहीं है यहाँ आना आसान है जाना मुश्किल है यहाँ से so it was that kind of a confine which your character who's strong-headed and rebellious she's fighting for her independence she's fighting a morality and a sexuality issue there Bajrangi Bhaijaan of course took a story which had congealed violence, congealed jingoism, suspicion, distrust, and tried to recast that story in humanitarian and with kindness and with love. So, for both of you, when you look back, how seminal was Bajrangi Bhaijaan for you, for instance, and how seminal was Masan for you? How has it shaped your, these 10 years and the next 10 years to follow?
Obviously, when you're making something, you don't know it's going to be seminal. So you start out making it with honesty. It's a really sweet kind of experience because Neeraj Ghewan, the director and writer of Masan, was the script supervisor on Gangs of Wasseypur. And Varun Grover was like the lyricist for Oi Lucky Lucky Oi, the songs that Sneha Khanwalkar had composed. So I had known them like that. And then they came to me saying they've written something set in Banaras about this girl, who has very sort of healthy sexual curiosity. Would you like to do it? And it just sort of fell into place. While making it, it definitely seemed like a really interesting project and something that was already an Indo-French co-production. So I knew that it had the possibility maybe to travel to film festivals, but no one knew that it would just have so much everlasting love. I think it tugs at your heart a little bit and makes people feel things. So they remember the feeling way long after the experience of actually having watched the movie is ended. So,
But did it become a reference point for you for your later choices?
no, not really. I wish I got scripts as complex, as layered, as coded as Masan later also. That's any actor's dream to keep getting better and better scripts that are, it's a big compliment if something's written for you. Um, my choices have always been my choices because of where I come from, how I think, what I think of acting, what I think of movies. So I wouldn't say that it shaped a lot of my later choices.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say I was very lucky to get that film so early in my career.
Yeah. And for you?
So, like Richa said, when you're making a film, you really don't know that it's going to become this, monstrous success and what it's going to do for you in terms of your career. But why Bajrangi as a story was important for me was because it brought together in a great balance what I've always tried to do with my films. See, I come from a background of documentaries, and when I used to look at Bollywood films, I used to struggle sometimes as an audience with stories set in with no social context, historical context, political context. And therefore, growing up, my favorite filmmaker was Mani Ratnam from the South, who was doing that. When I came in with a Kabul Express, which was hugely political, it was set in Afghanistan. it was still a small film. And from there, then Aditya Chopra, who was my producer of my first 3 films, he felt that, you know, he said, I'm apolitical, but when I was watching Kabul Express, you let me access the politics when I needed to understand what's happening. And if you can do that, I feel you should go a little more mainstream. And then followed a film called New York, which also became very successful. It was against the backdrop of post 9/11 illegal detentions that took place. So when it and then I did Tiger, which was the start of the whole spyverse, which was also a little, from my point of view, very political, because it was actually subverting what we called, this so-called sense of jingoism and nationalism. And then in Tiger, I had a lot of tussle with Salman, because that's the first time I'd just done 2 films. He was the reigning sort of superstar of the industry. But in that tussle, I sort of understood him. I spent a lot of time with him, and I realized that he feels very strongly about certain issues, like the composite culture of India, about secularism, about, and I said, but you've never articulated this on the platform of which you're a demigod. And why is that? Why are we? And the pressure after creating Ekta Tiger was to make another Tiger, right? Because that's the conventional wisdom in our industry. You make a hit film, you have to make another hit film. Even after New York, they told me make a sequel, and I had to tell them, have you seen the film? I've shot everybody dead. How do I make the sequel? And I didn't want to go down that route. I didn't want to do a Tiger 2. I had had my fun with doing action, and I said, okay, that's enough. I want to move on. And I took this story to Salman, knowing it's the antithesis of what Salman was at that point in time. It was the antithesis of what he and I had created in terms of this super character called Tiger. But he jumped at it because it really hit home. And he said that, you know what, we'll produce this, and became his first production. Um, because there was no action. In fact, he's only being beaten up, and that too by Pakistani policemen, which is completely taboo. Um, so, in a sense, it brought together for me what I was always trying to do. When I moved from documentaries to mainstream cinema, I knew I want to use the format of mainstream cinema, but yet have a political base, have the politics in the layers beneath. But I always look for that balance where you can watch the film and enjoy it at face value, but if you can access the politics and the layers beneath, you'll just find that film that much more profound and enjoyable. And which is what exactly happened with Bajrangi. People loved it at face value. It was a very entertaining, enjoyable, emotional film. But those who access the layers beneath found it that much more better, and that's why it still gets the love that it does, after 10 years.
Many of the themes that you spoke about now, but to take you both back to the fact that both of you come from non-filmy families, both of you studied in Delhi and came to Bombay. So presumably with stars in your eyes, as they say. So how difficult was that journey, in the sense that how difficult was it to break through Bombay's rhythms, which were different from those of Delhi? And also today, is Bombay still the storytelling capital that it used to be, always was? Because now, anybody with a mobile phone, a smartphone, can create content, also find an audience. So does Bombay still have that place on the, the imagined landscape of the nation that it had when you guys came to Bombay?
I don't know about the film industry, but definitely I didn't make it to Jamia. I had given the entrance and I didn't get in. So when I first came to Bombay, I studied mass media for a year at Sophia College, social
Oh, you came and
communication.
studied here?
Yes, and loved it. That was the best 1 year for me, education-wise. And it helped me understand the city, that there's east and west, there's kanda and batata, there's pure veg. Yeah. And all those things. And I started rooming with a friend of mine who had gone to FTI to become a writer. We shared this really tiny, I mean, I think my kitchen is the same size now, but that small flat. And I used to do an internship with Man's World magazine as a small time illustrator and advertorial writer. So my struggle really was to find out where the auditions were happening, because that was the time when mobile phones were not so. I mean, there was no instant information, and you would drop your photos and with your phone number at the back of it to different agencies and sort of find out who's doing advertising, who's doing film work. Um, My break was easy, I think, because I started doing a professional play with my guru Barry John here. That's, I think, the only play he's done in recent times in Bombay. It was called Baghdad Ka Ghulam. Ironically, same play that Shah Rukh Khan had done in 1988 with the same director. Um, and from that, I got cast for Oi Lucky via an audition. But I think what happened after that was the release of Oi Lucky coincided with like the 26/11 blasts, and no one went to the theater for like months. Except the film slowly started to pick up in Delhi, and then my performance started to get talked about. Um, so I think the break was okay. The break came in like maybe 5 months, but it was the 2 years of waiting and doing nothing, waiting for Gangs of Wasipur. That also came to me because five other people rejected it. Uh, that that the waiting game is. Now I learned that it's a part of the actor's life. Whether you're waiting in the vanity van or you're waiting at home for a good script, you gotta wait. Yeah.
Yeah. Are there things about Bombay that still you are uncomfortable with? Things
When I-
that about Delhi that you remember, long for?
For me, the shift to Bombay was really to follow my dream, to make films on the big screen. I was a documentary filmmaker based over there. I landed in Bombay. I didn't know anybody in the film industry. I mean, my wife was the cool chick. She was MTV VJ. She's the only one who knew like people in the industry, and we did, I think, speak to a few people. But otherwise, so it wasn't easy. And remember, I mean, in those words, the D word was a bad word. Like you tell people to say, "Batana nahi documentaries banate ho." So, otherwise you won't get a job. They'll think you'll bore the hell out of them. And but I knew that I was going through a bit of a dilemma when I was making documentaries. This is this is predating the OTT platforms and YouTube's. It was difficult finding audiences, even though I was getting very good commissions internationally, and I was shooting documentaries in Afghanistan in those days, and there was actually something that happened one day in Afghanistan which made me realize that you have to just tell stories. And literally, Bollywood saved my life. I was going to be shot by a mujahideen uh, in the mountains, and when he was coming with that, I had just jumped off a helicopter, me and my friend, trying to enter, and he came towards us, and I thought, that's it. That's the way my life's been written. I'll be shot dead in these mountains, and nobody will know. And I just kept saying Hindustan, Hindustan, because I knew that the mujahideen had a soft spot for India. And suddenly he hears what I'm saying, and he stops and he smiles and he starts singing "Mere sapno ki rani kab aayegi tu." And that's the day I knew that there's no medium power more powerful than Bollywood. It saved my life, and I went back and started writing my story um, based on my experiences. And I landed up over here. It wasn't easy. Um, I went to all these new so-called champions of alternate cinema. They all loved the story. Nobody was ready to put their money where their mouth is. Everybody said there's one studio you should never go to, and that's Yash Raj Studios, because they don't do this kind of stuff. But unknown to all of us, as typical of Aditya Chopra, he was thinking 10 steps ahead, and somehow my script reached him, and I, out of the blue, get a call from Yash Raj Films that says that Aditya Chopra wants to speak with you. I'm like, wait a minute, does Aditya Chopra even exist? The joke in Yash Raj is that Yash Ji created Adi just to scare people. He doesn't really exist. So I was saying, okay, really? And I thought it's a prank, honestly, because Mini was in MTV. All of VJ friends knew the struggle I'm going through, and I thought it's part of MTV Bakra. You know, like Brocha's going to do and I'm suddenly but in the course of the conversation, I realized that that lady is like serious, and I said okay. And on the day that she told me, I went there. There was no Brocha jumping out of the bushes, and she just said, "Yeah, Adi's waiting for you." And I, entered, and I still remember the visual of entering Aditya Chopra's room, and he was cleaning his glasses with with his shirt, and he turned around and said, "Kabir, I've read your script. When can we start?" And that's how it happened. So
In your films, character, location, the place is almost like a character. It's like it's not just a backdrop. Uh, when you become a very successful director, as you have, or a very, very successful actor, as you have, isn't it also an isolating thing in the sense that, John Abraham had come to an event in the Indian Express in Delhi recently, and he said that the feedback that he gets on his work is actually when he sits next to people in a plane. When he's taking plane journeys, and there are other passengers who tell him, we liked you here or we didn't like you there. So, is the life of an actor or a director, a very successful director, an isolating one in the sense that how do you keep alive that sense of place and location and a sense of other worlds that you have done? Where are your windows? How do you keep them open?
I think we didn't close the window.
I think wrong candidates. We just never did. Yeah,
Yeah.
just never got into the trappings of what you're calling.
You don't have to rely on what passengers sitting next to.
No, I mean, Mini knows. I just love chatting up people, and I've never. And honestly, I mean, for Richa, it's different. She's still an actor. But for a director, I mean, what? At best, it's going to be a few selfies and a shake hand. People will tell you that they loved your film, or they'll tell you they hated your film. But that's about it. So I've never. I love traveling. For me, the reason why you said locations are a character in my film is because Amreen mentioned my stint with Saeed Naqvi, and I, with him in about 6 years, did 80 countries. So for me, my entire like I was never here. I was never in India. I was always traveling, and it opened me up my horizons. It shaped me as a person, and therefore, the locations of my films are characters. A Kabul Express can only happen in Kabul. That story won't stand in any other place. A New York can only happen in New York. That story won't stand in London or Sydney. So. And that's why, and that comes from the fact that I love traveling. I would see those locations as bringing a uniqueness to the story, and then I would just sit and write them. And of course, I was at the great privilege that Adi opened up his checkbooks and allowed me to travel everywhere. The joke in Yashraj was that Kabir just writes the locations into his scripts and goes there. I wanted to go to Cuba. I said, okay, so Tiger and Zoya are going to Cuba. And I was in Cuba filming there. But that's been one of the greatest thrills for me in my films.
So for you, travel has done that, and
Absolutely.
your past as a documentary filmmaker.
Yeah.
And what about you, Richa? How do you manage to still connect to different voices, different characters, different people?
I actually really I think it definitely helps that you're not born into the business, because then I see that the kids that are born here, there's a different understanding of, especially if they're like the children of actors. For them, Fridays mean such a different thing than they do us. Like, there's so much pressure. Um, and I think that the trick is to not surround yourself with sycophants. I mean, we've seen many a great director just collapse at the altar of this. Like, they surround themselves with yes men, and then no one tells you that like your last good film was 20 years ago. So it happens. So I mean, when you were saying the passenger on the plane, I am the passenger. So I do all my grocery shopping. So I'm regularly in touch with my, sounds really housewifey, but like maybe this is my tried wife era after just giving birth. But I know the price of vegetables. I'm in constant contact. Once in a while, I'll go to Dadar Sabzi Mandi in the morning and pick flowers and sabzi also from there. I take a rake every now and then. I walk a lot in the city wherever I can, wherever there is roads in Mumbai to walk, pavements and things. But yeah, I think that it's so important to keep yourself grounded and do that, because then otherwise you will never know. I mean, one of the pet peeves I have is if you're performing a character and it's set in like 1952, you cannot sound like, you cannot have this kind of accented English or like this Bandra sort of. I mean, I just feel like to get that reality, it has to be in your ear, it has to be in your visual. You have to care about other people. You have to care about somebody who's running after a bus. You may not have taken a bus in Bombay in 10 years, but you have to care for that person and what it means to them. Yeah.
So both of you have also, in that sense, shared this. It's a sort of an urgent and wide engagement with the world around you. So it shows in the themes that you take up. It shows in the stories that you take up. Has that also been a problem for both of you in the industry? Because this is not how most actors are. This kind of engagement is missing. we don't see them talk about issues like Richa has, ranging from, I think, the fixation of fair skin to body, to these unrealistic beauty standards, from, the place of women, why they are not there on the set more in more numbers, from there to, I think, Hindutva and Hinduism. So, and in your case, you have used these stories and told them in your films. So, is that a problem also? Is there a blowback to that? Is it difficult to find projects, for instance, big money to come for your projects? Is it difficult to find funding for it?
Fortunately, not till now. Uh, no, you see that
The studio bosses, do they?
studios only see the success of your films. They don't really care about your story, honestly. They know that if you're a successful director, they'll follow you and then ask for the story. So maybe till the point that you're successful, you will not be questioned. And the day, we're not successful, we will be questioned multiple times about what we're trying to do. Um, but I think to answer the fact that we have been vocal about what we feel, I think that has to be. I mean, that, in fact, I don't look at it as a problem. I look at it as a privilege we have, that we have a platform where we are able to express our views about what we feel strongly about. I, of course, as a director, get the platform of my films. I do most of my speaking through my films. All my films are political. And when I say political, a lot of times people say, no, but how is it political? Like they'll say, but 83 is a sports film. I say, politics doesn't mean politics between two political parties or hard politics. Politics is the way you look at anything in life, right? The way I frame my actors, the way they speak, what they speak about anything in life is reflecting my politics. You can't be apolitical. That one of the biggest peeves that I have in Bollywood. I hear a lot of people saying, अरे हम तो apolitical है. Apolitical क्या होता है? ये bottle apolitical हो सकती है. But a person cannot be apolitical. The very statement that you're apolitical is the most political statement. It reeks of privilege because you're so rich and secure in your life that nothing affects you. Um, so no, I feel I've enjoyed the fact that we've lived in all kinds of situations and conditions and surroundings, and but being able to bring your point across. The whole point is to also bring your point across in a way. You don't have to be confrontational in it. You just have to be able to say what you want to say and let people think about it without sort of being controversial or saying it in a way that can polarize people. I think that, and especially being a mainstream cinema maker, I have to be very aware of that. That I have to, at the end of the day, also engage and entertain people. And by entertain, I don't mean like making them laugh and fall off the seats. I mean pull them into a world. That's entertainment for me. You bring somebody into a world for 2.5 hours and keep them there with your characters and let them agree or disagree with what they're saying. I mean, my first film, Kabul Express, one of the main protagonists is a Taliban. I do not at all agree with the politics of a Taliban, but I do want to see his human side. I do want to see, okay, what was his story? Because it was based on a true story. It was based on my interactions with the Taliban in Afghanistan. So it's very important, I feel, and I feel blessed that we have a platform. We get platforms like this to engage and speak with people and speak about what our ideology and politics is.
Yeah. Me, I I would like to say that because I've only produced one film and it's an independent film, then I'm always struggling for funding, because usually they're about a topic that is like the first film we produced was about a young girl's sexual awakening, teenage sexual awakening, and what the presence of a young boy in her class does to her and her relationship with her mother. So, tricky subject, but it kind of worked out for us.
And what a lovely film.
Thank, thank you. Thank you. Minnie, you're so sweet. Thank you. Uh, I forgot. No, sometimes it creates problems for me. Yes, my parents scold me, and then my husband scolds me. Everyone scolds me. Sometimes I think I can't help myself, but I do think that a lot of my feistiness, my angry young woman energy, my rebel energy has been tamed with the birth of my daughter. I just think she really puts things in perspective, and this whole experience has really softened me. I'm more patient. I speak more softly. I'm on time, etc. Life really changes. It forces you to grow up. I wake up early. Yeah. So
No, like you said, everything's political. The way you frame a character, the way you light the character, where the character is in the story, all of those are political choices. But having said that, there is a more explicit politics, there's a more direct politics. And we are living in times where there is also rising political polarization. So, what does an artist, what does a filmmaker, what does an actor do? Is the primary responsibility that of finding the common ground, or is the responsibility of actually posing the questions sharply so that there can be greater understanding on those questions?
I think we are living in these times all over the world. It's very obvious. Uh, so I really
It's also it's also a time when you see that films that become propaganda are rewarded both at the box office and also artistic, I mean, in terms of the awards. So, does that dishearten you? Does that provoke you to make a different film? How do you, are there red lines that you draw for yourself?
Yeah, I mean, sometimes, yes, you're absolutely right. It can be disappointing to see sometimes films being rewarded for being propagandist or unnecessarily, essentially putting one very strong point of view, which is not, and there's no sort of artistic merit in that. But having said that, I mean, if those are the times you're living in, I cannot change what I make as an artist. There's no way I can change what I'm doing. See, I'm a storyteller, and my stories will always reflect what I am, what I believe in, what my ideology is. I'm not a trader, so I can't, like, if coffee is not selling and soya is selling, I can't sell soya. If I can only sell what I believe in, and I think we as filmmakers have to reflect the times we are living in, not the market we're living in. 10, 20 years from now, I need to be proud of those films. People who see me, know me, need to be proud of those films and said, yeah, these are good films, and nobody will remember the box office, trust me. But they will remember. For me, I've realized now I've been in the industry long enough. I've had blockbusters. I've had films that have not done well. I've had hits. I've had them all, and I've realized it's not the box office that's remembered. It's the longevity of that idea that stays. Kabul Express is the least earning film of my filmography. I still get people after 19, 20 years saying, I think that's your best film. Now, whether I agree with them or not, that's a different matter. But I feel that's a successful film. I have done films that have done really big numbers. People don't remember them. They don't talk to me about it. And that's not a successful film for me.
But Bajrangi
Bajrangi,
Bhaijaan.
as I said, is the optimal. Yeah, that's
No, the many subversions in
yeah, yeah.
Bhaijaan. You take Bajrangi, the name, you steep him in the Hindu tradition. You associate it with Bhaijaan. You connect it to Bhaijaan. You have the character of Om Puri, who's a Maulana who says Jai Shri Ram. You have Nawazuddin Siddiqui, who helps the main
Absolutely.
character find that the girl her home. And you have also on the Indian side that whole thing of non-vegetarian food and vegetarian food. There's a lovely song about chicken that this strictly vegetarian Salman Khan sings to amuse the little girl. So, can all these subversions happen today? You made this film 10 years ago. You think you can make a film like that again today?
I think I can, because if the film still gets love, then it means that somewhere it hit home. I feel it's the gatekeepers who sometimes draw up these limits and say, "Oh, this." I remember the conversations I had on Bajrangi. I remember the conversations I had with the censor board at that point in time. Who There's a scene with Om Puri, as you mentioned, who is a Pakistani Maulana, and he's saying goodbye to Bajrangi, and he sees that Bajrangi hesitates in saying Khudafiz, and he turns to Nawazuddin. He says, "आप लोगों में क्या कहते हैं?" And Nawazuddin, Jai Shri Ram, na? He says, and Om Puri, without batting an eyelid, says Jai Shri Ram, and the censor actually asked me to cut that. And I said, why? He said, the Muslims will not like it. I said, sir, what's my name? I don't mind it at all. I have grown up in a Delhi where Jai Shri Ram was not a political salutation. It was used by everybody. And I've grown up. I've been in Purani Delhi. Jai Shri Ram was like saying hello, goodbye, good morning. So I said, why will they feel bad about this? I fought for it. I stuck to it. And I went on the opening weekend to those of you who are from the industry. There's a theater called Gaiety Galaxy in Bandra, like the barometer of how people react. And a lot of the people who come there, and just the Eid release, are sort of these blue collar Muslim workers, who come to Gaiety. And I was there, and that scene came where the Pakistani Maulana says Jai Shri Ram, and the yell of approval that went up in that hall. I'm getting gooseflesh thinking of it now. And I was saying, the censor thought they will not like it. So I feel you have to stick to what you believe in. And at the end of the day, it's goodness. Why will people like it? As I said, sometimes the gatekeepers come in and stop that, but the people don't. People loved that. People loved, whatever we were able to show in that film, the politics behind it, and have really appreciated it. It's because without that, they would not still be loving the film.
Richa,
Yeah.
in the last year, you've had some important things happen to you. So three of them, and this is not in any particular order of hierarchy. I mean, there's your daughter. You had a daughter. You also said that you always wanted to work with Sanjay Leela Bhansali, and you did. You did Hira Mandi with him, and you turned producer. Yet, after a year like that, I'm just going to read out from a post that you put out in April, I think.
I'm starting to feel a sense of dread creep up on me.
So, in April, you wrote a social media post saying, there is an inexplicable sadness, a feeling
Oh, yeah.
of impending and imminent doom,
Yeah.
a numb kind of hopelessness,
Yeah.
born out
But
of
that
strife and
was-
struggle. Why was that? And you ended it by saying, what would make you relaxed, healthy, creative, content, and most importantly, happy? Why?
I actually was not talking about myself, even though, I mean, all of you know postpartum is no joke. It's really like a whole rewiring of your internal insides and outsides. But I was talking about, I have some friends in Europe, and I was talking to a friend of mine who just casually, he told me he's a very successful photographer, works with some of the best names in the world, and he said, uh, I'm so sad, the day my dog dies, I'm going to kill myself. And he was not joking, and he was not crying. It was so matter of fact that it really hit me. And I said, okay, what's wrong with your life? Because I look at all this greenery and clean air around you, and I'm like, wow, you're living the life. And it was some, I don't know what it was, but it was this feeling. I think a lot of us have had it since after COVID. I feel like no one's really talking about it. Like year after year, the happiness index survey comes, and India is one of the saddest countries in the world. Why? What's wrong? I mean, something's definitely, not working out. I wanted to get to that point. Like, what is it that, is it that people are more into technology and find themselves isolated? Is it the collapse of, like, say, even the nuclear family system where people are working in different cities and rarely get to see people they love? Is it the fact that you're always feeling like a hamster on a wheel, having to earn a living, eke out a living, and never getting a rest? What is it? I was trying to get to that feeling. And I often do this as an artist. I like really talk about these things because I want people to have like catharsis. I want them to, hug me and cry if they need to. But I want to hear what's going on in people's lives. And a lot of people, if you note the comments, people are coming forward and sharing how they're going through something similar. I wonder if it's the many wars, because no matter how we feel sitting in India, slightly isolated from it, you're constantly watching like a live streamed genocide. And then, you're scrolling and there's like a father holding his dead baby who doesn't have a head. And then you scroll, there's somebody's birthday photo. And then you scroll, then there's somebody with like a makeup tutorial. And you go down and there's a famine somewhere else, and then a genocide somewhere else. And it gets to you. I think artists feel very deeply, and all of you also feel deeply, but you just mask it better. So it comes out in different ways. It comes out like autoimmune diseases, or bipolar disorder, or diabetes, or I don't know what. But I was trying to get to this point that I feel like like Krishnamurti said, it's no measure of good health to be well adjusted to a sick society, something to that effect. So I'm thinking society is getting sicker, and I'm interested in finding out why and how we can change it.
Uh, Both of you are
Yeah.
also in interfaith marriages. Your father and mother were also, it was an interfaith marriage. And I remember reading something that your sister wrote about your parents. Huh? She said, their young love blossomed in an even younger, newly independent nation. The fact that they belonged to different religions, languages, or cultures was exciting rather than an impediment. Uh, that was then. We've come a long way. Not in all ways we haven't evolved, as Richa just described. There are so many ways in which we have taken backward steps. So, does an interfaith union today for both of you feel more exciting and less an impediment, or is it vice versa?
You want to
You
go?
go, you go.
I mean, for Minnie and me, honestly, see, we're also in a position of privilege. We will not, people will not attack our interfaith marriage the way maybe, somebody in a small town would be today. So it's not that directly that Minnie and I would be feeling any effects of it. But yes, growingly, one is reading about all this in the newspapers, and it is troubling because I have only seen the best of both the worlds. I cannot understand. I feel people are just richer by having an interfaith union. Growing up, I got best of both the worlds. I got to celebrate every single festival in this country. I have gone to the masjid to pray and try and imitate my, relatives from my father's side and trying to do namaz when they were doing it. I have gone with my mother's side to every temple, and enjoyed all of it. Right, I had myself stayed an atheist. I decided not to take up either religion, but at the end of it, I was that much richer in terms of my exposure to Indian culture and Indian traditions because I was in a mixed marriage. Um, and even my children, I feel, are that much richer because of that. And when I think back and I say, if I didn't have that kind of exposure, would I be the same person? I wouldn't be. So I feel there's only to gain from that, and it gave me a worldview which, and even one of my greatest passions is still photography. It actually comes back to one of the questions. I always just, any festival, any mela in this country, I'm there with my cameras. Whether it's Pushkar Mela, whether it's Kumbh Mela. In fact, strangely, this time I was asked a question, and I've been for 3 Kumbhs, but one, reporter decided to ask me and said, "So you're a Muslim, why did you come to the Kumbh Mela?" And I said, "Since when did this become about religion? This is about Indian civilization. If you are part of Indian civilization, you will come and enjoy it and be a part of it." And he immediately realized and became apologetic. But I said, I realized that it's made me that much a more privileged person by being exposed to the two religions. So I can only see goodness in it.
Yeah, same. I mean, I love being in an interfaith marriage. I think it is exciting. I get to learn so many new things. Like, my dad is Punjabi, my mom is Bihari, so that in itself was a unique combination when they got married in the 80s. And then between Ali and I, even though we're very sort of secular, progressive, spiritual people, and we each do things with the other person's religion, sort of, because that it's just amazing. I love being in his ancestral house for Eid, which is Lucknow, and how people come, and then it's like everyone comes. It's not just Muslim people who come to eat biryani at his house on Eid or eat yakni pulao. It's the whole society, and there's a separate set of dishes for the Jains who live across the road. And it's wonderful to see that they sit around. A pan is made. Ali's 90-year-old grandma will make a pan, and then the whole mahal is so joyous. And likewise, when he first came into the family fold and looked at things like Bhai Dooj and Diwali and all the spate of festivals that happen now, which is just on the corner actually, he was just he was so happy, and came dancing to a big fat Punjabi wedding recently, and he was just showered and smothered in love. I think we must take a cue from nature. In nature, what causes diseases, congenital diseases, is often interbreeding. What does that mean? That means that nature wants you to share and spread, and sort of that's how you evolve and grow. Yeah.
So, so after, yeah. Um, After you turned producer, this with Girls Will Be Girls, I heard you say that you wanted a set which was 100% female, but you couldn't manage, and so you managed with 70 to 80%.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. And you
Superb.
mentioned, as Ambreen said in her introduction, that I think lighting is one part where you don't find women who are trained in lighting.
Yeah.
And you put out a free module to train some
Yes.
girls for that, women for that. So, what are these gaps really? And now, as you go on, you're making many more films as producer. Are you inching closer to that 100% goal?
You
And
know,
why is it needed?
no, honestly, this demand, as a producer, I have to give my director what she wants. She wanted an all-female set because of the nature of the
The film.
theme. Yeah. She wanted the very young actors. The girl was, I think, 22 or 24 when we shot, and then so was the boy. And they just wanted a safe space where they could, just like explore and express. For that reason, she wanted all female crew, but we realized there are only light boys in the industry, and they're amazing. But some things need to change when you realize they need to change when you encounter them. Till such time, you don't know. Like there was a weird rule earlier, maybe like 2 decades ago, that women can't be makeup artists. I don't know. Remember that time?
There was
I
a rule.
keep hearing that was before my time, but women can't be makeup artists. Women will be hairdresser Didi, and then they'll also drape the sari and walk with the heroine into the van or to use the bathroom somewhere. But uh, so these rules are really strange, and we found that the reason women were not given grips or lighting jobs was because of how will they lift. Now, it's very convenient because when in the village, women have to fill water. They have like 5 pots on their head and they're walking 2 kilometers in like 40 degrees. No one is asking कि तुमने इतना भार कैसे उठा लिया. So we wanted to change that. So we applied for a grant to Berlinale and won a little bit of money. And then we went to Nasir from Light and Light. And I thought it was amazing because his whole team just came ahead and they were like, okay, we'll train the girls. And it was like an intense 1 week training workshop, which Ali also attended. But what I realized later was it was a lot of speaking, a lot of showing lights, a lot of lifting, a lot of work. And all the men in that company, Nasir's company, Light and Light, were fasting. So they were on their rosa. So they would finish the class and then have their first sip of water. I mean, I just thought it was so beautiful that they're spending all this time to educate girls who've come from Chhattisgarh, who can't even speak Hindi. They're tribal girls from Bombay, girls from Delhi, Bangalore, Jharkhand. So it was really, really rewarding. And I want to take this opportunity. If there's anybody from HSBC, we are going to do the second edition this year. Please give us some money. Give us the money. We want to do it properly, and we want to. When we had mentors last time, we didn't give them a stipend, but I would like to, because we gave all the girls a stipend for 3 months so that they could learn lighting properly and leave their regular day jobs. Yeah.
Kabir, you just spoke about how Salman Khan shared the politics of Bajrangi Bhaijaan, and that's why you worked with him on the film. Is it important to you to work with like-minded people? What if you had to work, let's say, with just off the cuff Kangana Ranaut, and Richa Chadha has worked with Kangana Ranaut.
Yeah.
So does that create a problem? Does that create friction?
In my experience, I've mostly worked. I mean, it's not like I selected the people I work with on the basis of um, what their point of view is or what their politics are or their ideology is. But I think what happens is when you tell a story and narrate a story to your actors, and if that story inherently has a certain political viewpoint, and the actors sign on because they like the story, then they are already on the same page. I have a feeling that maybe if they are from a divergent point of view, they might not just like the story and say no. So, in my experience, I've actually managed to collaborate mostly with people who have identified with what I'm trying to say in the film, have enjoyed what I've tried to say in the film. So, yeah, I think I've been, in that sense, I've been blessed. I've never had to convince people beyond a point as to what I'm trying to say in the film.
I honestly, I think I worked with Kangana when the only thing I knew about her was that she was coming off of a bad breakup because she had been speaking about it. So that's about all, and she wasn't like as vocal about her opinions, and had no didn't seem like she wanted to go into politics. So, uh, having said that, I really didn't discuss anything with her, uh, and or actually even be friendly with her. But I think it's okay. I think we don't have to become friends with everyone we work with, and you should be able to work with everyone. Uh, in your case, you're the director, often the producer. I mean, it's a very different thing. But as an actor, you're going on set now. Anyone can be
Yeah,
cast.
yeah, true.
Yeah.
You're writing the story of your next film, is it?
I wrote.
Aakhri
Yeah.
Somvar.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, does that mean you're taking a step from being an actor and now a producer to also becoming a writer? Is that a
I mean, I don't think I can become a writer, but I had time and I wrote it in the lockdown. I've just been polishing it ever since. I'm fairly underconfident about sharing it with anyone, but it's like it's the kind of childhood I had growing up in Delhi. I grew up in a large joint family for the most part. Lots of female like buas, didis from my dad's side, and a lot of observation about what happens in your life when your mom is not a working mother or is not terribly educated. What kind of proposals you get if you're a little bit darker? What do people say if your nose is a little unique? And how the men have this. So it's about a woman who's not getting married who starts to fast on Mondays for that Sola Somar. So, and it's laced with comedy and obviously it's very coded. So let's see. Yeah.
and you're doing an India China production next?
I'm collaborating with some filmmakers from Hong Kong. We've been talking actually very interestingly about the fact that the three sort of powerhouse film industries of this part of the world are India, China, and Korea. And why don't we have more collaborations? Because we also share a certain commonality in terms of our social structure, in terms of how we feel. Even civilizationally, there's a lot of commonality. So it's been a very interesting process of, thinking outside of just what you can make in Bollywood, and that now, I've done so many films. I know how to do that, how to put a film together for Bollywood, how to get the actor and then get the funding and go ahead and make it. But this is a new territory that I'm trying to explore, which will allow me to access stories that I might not be able to tell in Bollywood from our part of the world. And there is this I can see, and I've been making trips to LA and speaking with studios, and as I can see a growing excitement for stories from this part of the world being told by storytellers of this part of the world, not a Western eye coming in and taking. I think that's passe. I think that's not going to
So
happen.
this will be shot in China.
No, it's no. Actually, this is nothing to do with China, apart from the fact that we are collaborating with filmmakers from Korea, China, and India. It's not about stories in China. It could be from Afghanistan. It could be from Iran. It could be from Sri Lanka. This part of the world that we would tend to understand better than a Western storyteller. And the fact that these three giant industries can come together to tell stories which might not otherwise find funding in a in a regular Bollywood structure. Because why should I, as a storyteller, also limit myself to stories that can only sort of service mainstream cinema? There are some stories that I get excited about, but I know they will not be able to fall within the structures of a mainstream film. And if I can access, these markets, explore ideas with them, they can explore ideas with us, then it just opens up the world for us, literally.
Absolutely. So we'll open up the questions to the floor.
My name is Amar Sinha. So I'm a great admirer of all the subjects that you make your film on, and Richa, you too, because we were sponsors in one of your great OTT shows, which is Inside Edge, and you did a fantastic job. So, of course, we are very keen to know when is the next Inside Edge. But Kabir, I want to ask you one question. That you make such wonderful films where you have to struggle with maintaining commercial viability and at the same time ensure that you don't arouse adverse public sentiment. And when you recreate these real events like in 83 or Bajrangi Bhaijaan, how do you decide that you maintain, you draw a line between facts and cinematic fiction? Because you need to achieve all the goals around it. So how do you do that? Because that's in today's society and culture, it's a very sensitive issue.
You're right, absolutely right. It's sometimes, in the days of social media, it's very easy to offend people, and they have a platform to then come, screaming after you. Um, but honestly, to answer that honestly, I've been asked this often, and one can, in retrospect, try and sort of intellectualize it and say this is how we do it, but it's all gut instinct. I think as a filmmaker, as a storyteller, I approach every decision as a gut instinct. I have to feel comfortable with it, and I think I'm a reasonably sort of, middle path person who is not an extremist in his views. And I think this seems pretty okay to say or present. And I don't think this is going to unnecessarily, make people get up and, in a certain sense, ruffle their feathers. And more importantly, it's also about, is it true to the story? And if it's true to the story, then that's the way I should tell it. And if it does end up ruffling feathers, then I should be able to defend it. So it's a combination. It's, as I said, it's not something that is too thought out. It's a very gut instinct. It's a feeling that you get. But if you believe strongly in it, then you have to go with it. And then if there are brickbats coming, just face them.
Hi, this is Priyanka Sinha. I'm so happy that I get to meet the both of you and Vandita, of course, as ex-editor of Screen and then curator of Screen Awards. And also, coincidentally, the founder host for Expresso, which I think, Richa, you featured on a few years back. So I'm great to be here. And what I wanted to ask the both of you is that, creative styles change over a period of time. And as creative directors, writer, producer, what is it that you felt change in the last, like, even 5 years, stylistically? Because the emotions, stories can, you have had a lot of geopolitics, Kabir, in your films. Richa, you've tackled gender politics with Girls Will Be Girls. So how do you stylistically address these, these challenging issues in a way that, it remains relevant to a newer audience, appeals to people at an emotive level, and yet conveys the message? Well, message is a wrong thing, but the subtext of what you want to say.
I can't really take credit for Girls Will Be Girls because I was not the writer or the director. But I would say that if I'm doing a scene, and let's I want to humanize the character. So I will do something that conveys what I mean through that woman that I'm playing. Like in Hira Mandi, this character was very berated, sort of like abused, looked down upon, publicly humiliated. Uh, and yet, when before her exit, she gets like this little feeling and she has a sarcastic chuckle. Now, I didn't know so much would get written about that. Because that's her defiance and her response, like, huh, who are you to judge me? That kind of feeling, So I mean, I don't know about gender politics, but what my take on things is when, like in Masan, the woman had healthy sexual curiosity of a 24-year-old girl. At that time, she got shamed and persecuted for it. But what she carries with her through the film is grief. It's never guilt because it takes two to tango, as we all know in this very populous country. But yeah, I feel like that little thing has to come through in your you have to give the character some dignity.
Um, I've actually, to be honest, it's not like I don't study trends and then try and incorporate that in to be relevant. I think you have your style of telling a story, um, and that's the only way you can tell a story. It has to come organically from within you, and then the audience will tell you if you're relevant or not. So I think I just go ahead and tell the story the way I want to. I still manage to tell the stories that attract me. There have been times when people have said, "Why are you doing this?" But I just, if for me, it's like when I read a story, it could be a newspaper headline, it could be a book I've read, it could be some story I've heard from somebody else. I know it within me when every pore of my body is screaming that this is the story we want to tell. And that's very important. That passion is very important because a film is a long journey. I'm going to be living that for the next year and a half. In the case of a film like 83, maybe 3 years, because just 2 years was research. And if you don't passionately feel for that, you're not going to be able to last the journey. So yeah, I don't. I mean, yes, of course, as an audience, I am aware of the different trends. I am looking at all that. Maybe subconsciously they are affecting me because all of us are evolving as we go along. I'm not the same person who made my first film. My next film will be completely different, maybe in the way I approach it. But it's not something that I can consciously study and implement because ultimately the storytelling and style and craft as a filmmaker has to come organically from within me.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Hello, ma'am. My name is Johan Dubash. I'm from St. Xavier's College. I'm doing media in my first year. So, Kabir, sir, my question is for you. So, one observation that I've made, and I think everyone in this room will agree with me, is that you always look at breaking stereotypes of an actor through a character. So, for example, in Bajrangi Bhaijaan, if you look at Salman sir's portrayal, he used to do action-packed cinema or comedy cinema, which was very stereotypical in earlier. So, and for example, a recent film of yours, which I really loved, was Chandu Champion. If you look at Karthik Aryan, he was also very involved in comedies and light-hearted comedies, and he did a film like Chandu Champion. So, what goes through your mind when you're casting such actors for such characters and to break stereotypes?
I actually approach stories, and then the actors have to come into my world and become my characters. So I don't. I'm not. I know in mainstream cinema there's a lot of fan servicing that's done, and you get the star, and then you create a platform for them. Fortunately, I've never had to do that. I've had backers for the stories that I've selected, and as I said, I think it's the power of the story. If I narrate a Bajrangi Bhaijaan to Salman, as you said, when he's at the peak of his action phase, which and it's just after Tiger, which is his most successful action film created by me, and I go and tell him this story, and he jumps and he wants to play that character. Then it's the power of the story. It's not really me. If I take a story of Murlikant Petkar, who's India's first Paralympic gold medalist, a lot of lead stars would say, really, you want me to play a like a paraplegic? And but it's the power of the story of Murlikant Petkar that Karthik was just blown away. He couldn't believe that such a man existed and we don't know about it. Exactly what was my reaction when I read Murlikant Petkar's story, and it was a random newspaper article that somebody handed over to me, and I read it and I said, this can't be true, because I pride myself on being a reasonably well-read person. I think I know a lot about these subjects. And I said, a man did all this and we don't know him. I mean, that's impossible. Has to be and I tried tracking him down. Nobody knew where he was. It took me 6 months, and thanks to my documentary background, I created research teams, and I said, you have to find somebody, must be there. If he's not there, his family. And 6 months later, they came to me and said he lives outside Pune. And I remember it was between the two lockdowns. I just sat in the car, immediately drove. I couldn't wait to see him. And that's the story when I told Karthik, he said, I mean, I'd give my right arm to do this. So I think it's a story. As sometimes they say that you don't select the stories select you.
Yeah.
And if they come to you, then I think you're privileged and honored to be able to say that.
Thank you, Richa and Kabir, for those very, very enlightening and enriching words. Beautiful thoughts. Thank you very much for that. I'm sure everyone's really very happy to have heard both of you. 2 questions for each one each. Richa, for you, quintessentially from Delhi to Bombay, what is it, and talking about the roads, what is it that you really like or miss about Delhi and Bombay, and vice versa when you go to Delhi or Bombay? And Kabir, I'll put the question together, is that from action, then you have Bajrangi Bhaijaan, and we all have loved that. And then you have these 2 sports films, 83, and then you have Chandu Champion, which absolutely I loved and I've seen twice. I'd see it probably again. Are you going to do more on sports? Because that's also something that does so much more than just beyond the story. And thank you, Amreen, for saying that stay back and attend today's program. Vandita, thank you.
What I miss about Delhi, let's start about what's great about Bombay. Bombay has incredible safety for women. I don't think I've seen that in any other city in this country, at least. Really, there's just the culture is amazing. You can take a train, a taxi, a bus at any point of time. Uh, Another very admirable quality I think Mumbaikars have is that of patience, because they have endless patience with the roads. Because I think that in any other country, if like the people who make the roads had figured out planned obsolescence in this manner, we would be somewhere like we have marvels of like science, like a flyover that doesn't connect, and things like that. So really, Mumbai, incredible tolerance and safety for women. For Delhi, again, what I do miss about Delhi, again, the roads, big, clean, often very smooth. Let me not talk too much and ruin the roads of Delhi also. But I do miss the food of Delhi, particularly the street food, the chaat, the great food in Chandni Chowk and behind Jama Masjid, which we all grew up eating. So yeah, those are the 2 things I really miss.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad you've enjoyed those films. And yes, even though I've made 2 films now with a sports background, I've often said a good sports film is not about the sports. And 83 is not about cricket. I've often said that you can replace cricket with kabaddi and the spirit still stays, because it's really, for me, like 83 is a story of coming of age of a country. They made us believe that we could pull off what we did at the world stage. And there's a very important line which Man Singh comes, when he's had this sort of unfortunate interaction with these sort of people at Lords, and he comes and Kapil Dev looks at him and he says, what happened? And he says, कहाँ गए थे? And he says, मैं सबक सीखने गया था. And he says, क्या सबक? He says कि 35 साल पहले हम लोग आज़ादी जीते हैं, इज्जत जीतना अभी बाकी है कप्तान. And that's what the film is all about, So for me, I think sports films really get that really, that capturing the human spirit, like Murlikant Petkar's spirit. I mean, what a man. It's no longer about the sport, because, it's no longer about, was he a boxer and then went on to swimming. It's just what he achieved, and the spirit with which he achieved that. I think for any storyteller, that's gold. So I'm always looking for that. And now actually I'm looking more for unknown stories from our country, because I've realized after Murlikant Petkar, there must be so many such stories, and if we let them go, it's criminal. Like, I feel if we had let Murlikant Petkar go without his story being recorded for posterity, it's a crime that we let such a man get away without. The happiest thing about me for Chandu Champion is when I speak to Murlikant Petkar and when I meet him. And recently I met him when he was given by the president lifetime Arjuna Award, and the film begins with him going to the police station saying, and so when I meet him and when he turns down and says, he says, कबीर मेरे पास अभी dates नहीं है मैं मैं अभी यहाँ जा रहा हूँ वहाँ जा रहा हूँ Olympic committee के लिए जा रहे हैं. He's got a second life. He suddenly found his validation. He was so bitter about the fact that he had not been recognized, and now he's being recognized by people. The army hosts these grand gala events for him. So if that for me is, as I said, true success of film. I can do that. And sports films always get that to you. So I'm still looking out for those untold stories, and if they come to me, I'll find myself very fortunate.
Hi, a very good evening to all of you, and thank you. My name is Dalip Tahil.
So we know that.
And I've been in the film industry for as long as I can remember.
We know that too, sir.
As an actor. So there's one thing that I would like to, but it's not a question, it's just one thing that struck me, what Richa mentioned. It's about the women working in the film industry behind the cameras, and obviously they've been in front of the camera forever, which we all know about. And over the years, I've seen quite favorably, quite happily, that there have been so many more women behind the cameras that are working in the film industry, and that's always been welcome. But you made a comment, you said that you were doing a film where you wanted an all-woman cast, all-woman crew, because you felt this could be a danger of sensitivity if there were men involved.
No.
Or am I getting this wrong?
You're getting it slightly wrong. My director is based out of New York, so this was her first time making a film ever. And she knew that the theme of teenage sexuality might make the young actors feel a little bit unsafe, because no matter what, there is always like either the focus puller or the boom operator. There's at least that one man in the room, even when you're performing intimate scenes for people, and they were complete newcomers, so they were just fresh college graduates. They had no experience in acting. To sort of safeguard them, she wanted an all male crew. But we had a 70 to 80% female crew, and it worked really well for her. And I don't think that this is a hard and fast rule going forward. But sometimes the themes are such, like I've been in a room where I have to, like somebody's waiting with a gown because I'm wearing something skimpy, and then there's a man I'm supposed to kiss at that point, and then somebody's like, अरे reflector ऊपर करो, अच्छा नहीं मैम थोड़ा सा ऐसे ऐसे, and it's not always the most comfortable feeling. It's not always the safest space. I mean, you're lucky if you work like on a Bhansali set. Again, it's mostly women, and like he is the boss, so I've had the fortune of being on sets that are very, very equal. But I've also worked on films where I've been the only woman on set except for one, that hairdresser Didi, and it's not super comfortable. And the world is not like that. So we're not pushing men away. We're just trying to bring some balance.
So when you had your daughter,
Yeah.
you said in an interview that when you knew that it's a girl, you wanted to buy a gun. Did you buy one? Do you still want to buy one?
No, the funny thing is how many people are offended by me buying a gun, which I will not buy, guys. But आपको क्यों इतना डर लग रहा है? I want to know. Yeah.
Kabir, is
So
there
thank you for
something? Is there something that keeps you awake at night? Some worry, like Richa's worry about her daughter.
Climate change is a worry.
I have a 16-year-old, yeah.
Kabir sir and Richa ma'am. I am Uttara. I'm a student of international relations. Both of you all are one of the very few people in the industry who are very vocal about social or political issues, and it's honestly very refreshing. On screen as well, as audiences, we want to see stories that reflect society in all its layers. But with the censorship right now, we see a lot of these narratives get either very filtered or completely silenced. So in the direction that the censorship is going right now, where do you see the film industry going, and what are your thoughts on it?
I think this is the fifth or sixth time this question has come in a different way. Like, do you feel scared for voicing your opinion? Do you find funding? People are so like quick to anger, they get offended. So we are living through this phase, and I want to just quote Brecht. In the dark times will there be singing? Yes, there will be singing about the dark times. So now we'll see what happens. But yeah, I hope there are no more questions which are the same question, like in different ways. Thank you.
Space for one more question if there's something.
Yeah, hi, Fadalia. Kabirji, this question is for you. I just realized something odd, Chandu Champion and then Bajrangi Bhaijaan. This duplication of initials, has it got anything to do with your successful marriage, Kabir Khan and Minimatu?
I never thought of that.
Oh, wow.
Thank you for pointing that out. Yeah, never thought of that. You see, this is what happens. Like the universe conspires to make things fall into place. But no, it hasn't been a conscious decision.
Thank you very much, both of you. It was
Thank you.
wonderful to have
It was lovely. Thank you.